Hey guys, it's Ad from Loose Pixel, and today I'm bringing you the Huion Kamvas Pro 27 Gen 3. This is the third Pro pen display that I've reviewed, including the 19 and the 24. I'll leave the links to those in the description below. In the event where I'm repeating any information, if stuff is redundant, I won't bother repeating myself here. I'll just direct you to the other videos because there's other subjects such as software and stuff like that I've already covered. I'm also going to be comparing this to a pen display that, although totes very similar specs as the Kamvas Pro 27 Gen 3, the Wacom Cintiq Pro 27 that came out in 2023, which I have right over here just off camera. Okay, so I'm going to share what more do you get for spending more than double the price on a Wacom product. So to start us off, the Huion Kamvas Pro 27 Gen 3 retails for $2,200 USD, $2,199 USD, compared to $3,500 plus an extra $500 USD for the Wacom. So take that price tag into account. And this is a full 4K laminated display, meaning no parallax with the pixels. This particular model is 144 hertz. So this even qualifies as a gaming monitor as far as that goes. But 144 hertz when it comes to drawing should result in a much smoother, much more lag-free type of experience. More of the feeling like you're really drawing on that paper without any delay in your pen marks. 163 pixels per inch PPI. It also supports touch. However, none of the Pro lines that I've worked with the exception of maybe the 19, have they updated their drivers to support touch on a Mac. However, this could be considered a con for this product, except for the fact that touch really doesn't work well on Macs, even on my Wacom Cintiq Pro 27. It really kind of sucks. So I just turn it off because it always actuates when I don't want it to, and it's not as responsive. The touch feature is really going to work better if you're working on a Windows PC, but in my particular case, I really don't care. It's not something I really tend to use. It's not like working on an iPad, for instance. Apart from that, as far as specs go, it's 98% Adobe RGB, 99% sRGB, 98% DCI P3, and 98% Display P3. And note that this is factory calibrated. Not only are you going to get incredibly accurate colors, and those specs, by the way, are fantastic even for professional work, but it's going to reduce its fading of colors over time. So it helps to maintain colors, and you'll need to use a calibrator to manually calibrate it less as a result of that. So as far as value is concerned, just on the pen display itself, it's boasting very respectable specs, even compared to much more expensive competitors. And from my experience doing a side-by-side comparison, literally pixel peeping, if I was to describe the differences that I could see between the Wacom and the Huion, it's almost imperceptible. I notice a slightly better dynamic range on the Wacom, meaning that there's more range for saturations and values, but ever so subtle. You really have to pixel peep for that kind of stuff. And perhaps a slightly sharper, slightly higher contrast display on the Wacom. But again, you'd be hard pressed. I really had to stand over them and analyze them piece by piece just to check it, just to see the difference. So in terms of, are you getting more than double the price and value? No, you're not. I think that the Huion is really performing respectably in that sense. Now, as far as build quality is concerned, I find it's really nicely built, and I can personally attest to its longevity, at least over a couple of years of daily usage, teaching and drawing. I daily drove the Huion Kamvas Pro 24 Gen 2 and the Gen 3 for well over 1.5 to 2 years. And I never had any issues with the drivers. I never had any issues with the hardware whatsoever. Everything worked perfectly. It's a nice, clean, minimal build. You don't have any extra bells and whistles here as far as buttons and express keys and stuff like that. But again, that's not something that I use a lot. I have a toolbox, I have a keyboard. So for me, I don't really need those extra bells and whistles. The bevel itself is maybe a centimeter, half a centimeter to a centimeter thicker than that on the Wacoms. But again, if you're looking at them in the front, they're very, very similar. I'm not really peeping the back of it most of the time. I'm looking at the display itself. Apart from that, you have two USB 2.0 ports on the side and a 3.5 millimeter jack. On the top, you have a USB-C and power input, as well as a display port and an HDMI, depending on your personal configuration. Since I'm working on a Mac, I go with the power cable plus USB-C. It's a nice minimal setup as far as that goes. Apart from that, the only thing that I've mentioned, and I've heard several people mention this as well, is the cables do connect on the top, which in my opinion is a bit of a give or take. It's a little bit less aesthetic because you don't have cables coming out of the back. You can kind of see cables sticking out of the side. I've personally gotten very used to that. However, the advantage is when I want to plug it in, I don't have to turn it around and find the cables in the back. I just have to lean over and I can find the plugs manually here. Because they are sticking out of the top, they are easier to access. So take it as you will. Apart from that, another perk of the Huion compared to the Wacom is the fact that this actually comes with built-in kick-out feet, which are perfectly viable in terms of angle and build if you have it in a very low configuration where I have this really, really low where I'm looking more down at the display. However, so if I do have it in that configuration, I can easily hook up a keyboard above here for keyboard shortcuts. So in your particular case, you'd probably want to just have a keyboard off to the side or something like that, but it's perfectly good for that. However, if you've got it more in a sitting back and leaning back type of position, I highly recommend investing in Huion's ST100 stand, because this is VESA compatible as well. You can get the ST100 super dirt cheap. It's just a simple manual adjustment stand where you can lift it and put it down. I even used it with my Wacom, so it's substantial enough to hold up even a slightly beefier display. Have no problem holding this thing up, and that way you can sit back, you can get a keyboard tray, and you have a nice ergonomic angle, and it's definitely worth the investment. And it's on the sale all the time. Even without the sale, it's excellent. Now, one of the biggest perks of the hardware of the Huion, and it kind of shows up Wacom in comparison, is do you hear that? You probably don't. No fan noise. Both 4K, both factory calibrated. Both of them have a very high brightness. Both of them have exactly the same resolution. Both of them have a very high refresh rate, yet this is a whisper quiet display. To which I, again, scratch my head why Wacom's Cintiq, as much as I love the display, as much as I love it, has terrible fan noise, something I talked about in my review. You can check it out right over here. That's a perk if you work in a sound studio and you want to do audio recording while having your screen on at the same time. I generally I have mine turned off right now for that very reason. If I turn it on, you're going to hear the fan noise kick in. So overall, I think that you're getting excellent build quality, fantastic color, great resolution, very responsive, nice clean image, maybe 1% less sharp than the Wacom, but you're getting a very professional device here in terms of design and screen quality. Now, moving on to the pens, just like the other Pros, I won't go off into too much detail, but it comes with two pens: a standard pen that has 3 buttons and a wider grip, and the slim pen, which has 2 buttons. Both of them boast over 16,000 points of pressure, which on paper sounds fantastic. If I could give you just my direct hands-on feeling of using the pens in terms of responsiveness and sharpness and subtlety and accuracy of lines and painting, fantastic. I went from the Wacom directly to the Huion. I grabbed the Huion's pen. Note that this is using Huion's PenTech 4.0, their latest pen technology. I went straight from the Wacom using the Pro Pen 3 to this one. It was fantastic. It didn't feel laggy, it didn't feel wobbly, it didn't feel like it was losing any sensitivity. I personally really like the feel of the standard grip pen. When it comes to the Wacom, I actually prefer it in its slim configuration without an additional grip added. But I've noted now, since I have grown very accustomed to Wacom's Pro Pen 3 in the slimmer configuration, the thing I'm not a fan of with the slim pen, for me personally, is that I tend to have dry hands and this thing is very slippery in the hand. It needs a little bit of a rough grip where the Pro pen does. It has a bit of a gritty texture, which gives it a bit better grip, and it's easier for me to find my way around the buttons and stuff like that. So I'm personally not a fan of the slim pen, but that's very subjective. You might love it. You might absolutely love it. But for the standard grip pen one, I think this works great, and I really like the buttons as well. So pen performance is fantastic. I absolutely love drawing on this thing, and a testament to that was when I just started testing out the pen, as I have on all of the other Pro pens, after getting so accustomed to a much more expensive machine like the Wacom, I just got lost in my drawing and I had fun. I completely forgot about which tablet I was working on. And that should be a very telling thing to a buyer. Now, if I could mention a few slight cons. One, you might be a bit irritated by the fact that the cables come out of the top. I've personally gotten used to that, and there's a bit of a convenience. Another thing that I would add is the calibrator. To date, at least at the date of the recording or the publishing of this video, the calibrator is not supported. They haven't updated the firmware drivers for Macs. So the calibrator only works on PCs, and touch only works on PCs. So if the touch functionality and having that calibrator, which is provided in the box, if that's a big deal to you, then I would take note of that, because they haven't updated those drivers yet. I think as far as touch goes, that's forgivable because Macs don't play nice with touch. But as far as the calibrator, I think it's up to Huion to update that, because your customers are paying for this device. Mac users and PC users should get near to identical in experience. So those drivers should be supported both ways. Now, lastly, in the box, you're going to get the brand new updated Express Remote by Huion, which is a really nice updated design with a nice clicky outer ring and inner ring. All the buttons now have an LCD display on it, so you can tell you to remind you of what buttons you've pressed. I personally, non-sponsored, this is my baby. I use the toolbox for everything. I really have developed a codependency on this thing, for better or for worse. So for me, I don't really need it. I use that, or I use my keyboard. But in a pinch, it is a very high quality, very responsive, lag-free accessory that they just throw in the box with all of their pros right now. So I think that the battery life on it is excellent when you're using it in Bluetooth mode. Otherwise, just keep it plugged in. There's no big deal using it like that. For $21.99 USD, you get everything you need. You get a 4K display, laminated with a nice textured screen. You get 2 exceptional pens with 16,000 points of pressure that are very responsive and professional. Fan-free, no fan noise. You get a calibrator in the box. You get touch functionality on Windows. You get a calibrator on Windows. But even without those extra bells and whistles, moving from a 5,000 Canadian plus tax device and switching over to a $2,000 device, all included, you're losing a little bit in build quality. Perhaps it's a little less fancy looking. You don't get the express keys on the thing here, which is something I don't even use anyways. Honest to goodness, to most people, unless you're a very high-end professional who wants your device to last for the next 20 years, and by then this technology will be obsolete, I would recommend the Huion before I'd recommend the Wacom. And only if you've got a little bit of extra pocket change, or you can get a great deal like I did on the Wacom, then I'd recommend the Wacom after that. But these are both very neck and neck in terms of performance, so you can't go wrong either way. Sound good? Thanks for watching, everybody, and happy shopping. Take care.